Well, welcome back for another story time, where I'm going to talk to you a little bit about one of the adventures I had in Mexico. I've traveled extensively in Mexico with different partners of mine and with my wife. And this particular trip was when I was actually in Baylor. So I guess this was probably about 1978. And I had gone down there with my roommate, Dave Reiner, who is a lawyer now in Miami, and my best friend and played in my band, played bass and keyboards in my band, Jim Herrera, who's now a judge in Dallas. So I don't know if Jim or Dave will ever get to see these or not, but I'm sure they will remember this as well. We had taken my little Astra, which is this little crappy little four-cylinder car. We decided that we were going to drive all the way to Acapulco from Waco, Texas, which is, I don't know if you know that, that's a long way in any car. You know, it was probably, oh man, it had to be at least 1,500 miles. It might have been 2,000 miles one way. And you travel in just the bush, crummy roads in Mexico, especially back in those days. And I remember we had gone over the mountains and had gone through Mexico City, and we had stopped at some friends of his, and then we were headed down to which was our ultimate location, which was down in Acapulco. Well, remember we got there, and it of course was spring break. Now most of the white people that were there in spring break were also from college, and they were also there, had money, and had flown there. They weren't like us who had driven there, you know, cross country, you know, in an Astra. So we got there, and every place that we got there at like, oh man, it had to be like 9 o'clock at night when we finally arrived in Acapulco. It didn't look like it was very far on the map, but the roads were very bad, and it was through the mountains, and you just couldn't do it fast. It was sort of like when we were in Nepal, when I told you about that trip. You just can't go fast through those mountain passes, you know. I can remember we would go up trying to pass somebody, and all three of us in the car, we'd be doing like this because all that body weight would surge that little Astra forward so that we could pass cars and stuff. We got there to Acapulco. It was probably 8 or 9 o'clock at night. Every hotel that we went to was full, no room, full, spring break. Don't you know, you should have ordered months in advance. No, full. So finally we're like, well, what are we going to do? Where are we going to sleep? And I just said, well, you know, why don't we just kind of hollow out some spaces in the sand and we'll just sleep on the beach. And we were like, well, you know, that doesn't sound that great, but you know, it's better than nothing. So sure enough, we just went out on the beach, and we just kind of hollowed out kind of an area, you know, to lay down on, and we just fell asleep on the beach. And about, you know, 6 o'clock in the morning, the cops by, hey, vato, you know, they tell us in Spanish, you can't sleep here, you know, you gringos got to get off the beach, you got to go stay in a hotel. You know, it was daylight by that time. So we were like, well, okay. So we kept, you know, trying to find a place to stay, and, you know, by the time it was daylight, of course, and so we finally found a place to stay. A hotel had one room left with a couple of beds, and then I think I had an air mattress, or they put up some foam thing on the ground. I slept on the floor anyway. It wasn't no big deal. But so we got in there, and you know, we're resting again after we hadn't really slept very much that night, and so we were sleeping and stuff. And you know, Jim and Dave said, well, we're going to go down and check out the beach. And I said, oh, I'm still pooped, man. You know, so I said, I think I'll stay up here for a little while and rest a little more. They had this one tiny little air conditioner on the side of the thing, so I figured when those guys were gone, I could go ahead and move my thing right by the air conditioner, move the other bed out of the way, and then I could be cool and I could actually sleep, you know. So that was my plan. So I'm in there kind of resting in there by myself, and the whole room starts to kind of shake like this, and I'm like, dang, man, those guys upstairs are partying down. You know, I can't believe this, man. They must be doing like pogo or something like that, you know. That was in the days of New Wave. Everybody would jump up and down, you know. And I'm like, yeah, I can't believe those guys, man. They need to settle down upstairs. It's shaking the whole place, man. You know, well, after a little while they stopped. I guess, well, my song must have been over or something like that. And then later on, I had one of the guys that was the cleanup guys, and I was kind of talking about, yeah, those crazy gringos upstairs, they're partying. They said, oh, senor, it was an earthquake. I'm like, an earthquake? You know, I'm like, well, who? You know, so it's kind of weird. I mean, that was not one of the things that the variables that I thought, well, you know, maybe it's an earthquake. You know, you just think, well, what could it be? What's this like? Well, it's like parties I've been to and they were destroying the house from dancing, so it must have been that. So anyway, the next time that you're in a hotel and you think they're partying too much upstairs, it might be an earthquake. And that was another story, Tim.